Thanks for subscribing to and downloading Plant Talk with your host, Fred Howard. Plant Talk is sponsored by Franklin Park Conservatory and Botanical Gardens in Columbus, Ohio, featuring exotic plant collections and displays, seasonal art and nature-based exhibitions, outdoor gardens, and a variety of educational programming. fpconservatory.org. Now, here's your host, Fred Howard.
Good morning, Ohio gardeners, and I hope that you're having the same situation where you are as we are here. A totally and absolute severe clear. I couldn't believe it when the sun started coming up this morning. No clouds, not even much of a haze. I went out for the paper, and of course it wasn't there. But while I was out, I thought, almost a chill on the back of my neck. And the temperature's down. The air is clear. I'm just going to, well, let's just say what a fantastic start for a nice long weekend.
And sitting alongside Fred Howard, also enjoying the nice weather, I am Mark Neuse in our Plant Talk studios. And if you'd like to call Fred this morning, you have a question or a comment, 1-866-PLANT-TALK with 2 T's. That's 1-866-752-6882. And Fred, still quite a pretty good number in color, especially when you count the fruit.
Yeah, it's really, let's just say, though, bottomed out. We were almost at 50. Now we're at almost, well, we're just over 20 in terms of things in flower, and some of those are not particularly strong. And at the same time, the things like mums and so on are starting to peak flower open here, there, in the next place. And then the fruit. This is the season, and it's almost the matter of coloration of some fruit within the last 7 to 10 days. Dry causes a little of this. Temperature causes a little of this. The time of the year as the calendar turns and all. So we're getting color of significance, but some of it you would not want to eat because it's not edible, but beautiful.
And your plant of the week?
Well, the plant of the week, I've split it into 2. I've mentioned this one many, many times, probably repetitious beyond reason. But Sweet Autumn Clematis has just popped into bloom since Wednesday. It's the white, tiny little flower, probably ½ inch across, stark white, in a breeze. Now, there's not enough of them open yet that it will be a big deal, but it is Sweet Autumn by common name. It is because of a very sweet fragrance in a calm evening. But then I switch over to a plant that I've not had before called porcelain berry. Now, I want you to all to write this down quick, so grab your pencils. Its technical name is Ampelopsis brevipedunculata elegans.
That's okay.
You got all that?
Yeah, I did. I got it. Yeah.
Better known as porcelain berry. And it's an interesting plant because it is a vine. It's a relatively good grower in normal conditions, full sunlight, of course. But when it is doing its thing, it's just plain green leaves, medium green, with a kind of a creamy white through them as a variegation. But then just in the very recent past, and still turning, are these porcelain-colored berries. They're not quite the size of a cranberry and looking great. It's a good climber. I'm using it to, I shouldn't even admit this, but I've lost a couple of big evergreens, and I've planted this at the base so that it grows up through and makes the evergreens look like they're still supporting something.
Well, hey, nothing wrong with that.
No.
What a beautiful name, porcelain berry.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So the plants of the week are Sweet Autumn Clematis and porcelain berry. And we have a special guest on the program this morning, and Fred will introduce her next, coming up on Plant Talk. Once again, our toll-free number, 1-866-PLANT-TALK with 2 T's, or 1-866-752-6882. Just getting started. Glad you joined us.
This summer at Franklin Park Conservatory and Botanical Gardens, the gardens are in full color. Welcome its tropical and native butterflies in flight in the indoor Pacific Island Water Garden. View the conservatory's bonsai collection and experience the exhibition Origami in the Garden. Find details at fpconservatory.org.
We have a spokesperson and horticulturist representing Milorganite this morning. And good morning. How are you, Melinda?
I'm great, Fred. How are you doing?
Well, as I mentioned, even though we went to the same school at different times, our alumni is buzzing this morning already. The little airplanes pulling the big signs are already in the air. The sun is just absolutely brilliant. Everything is right except that the officers were already out setting up the pylons to direct traffic, and that. Well, you've been around the Ohio State Stadium. You know what that's like. But it's been a glorious 3 days, and we're into the third one right now with a good, strong start for a beautiful weekend. So how does that treat you in your climbs?
You know, we're actually experiencing some nice weather as well. I was recently back home in Ohio, missed the excitement of the start, of the season out down there, but was there just as you were getting some rain and the lawns were recovering.
Some people
Some people, yeah. If it weren't for the weeds, I think I have a large property now, so we just try to manage mow the weeds and keep them down and get the grass growing as best as possible. And fertilization is going to be our answer because that's really the best way to control weeds, to help your lawn recover from the stresses. And, with minimal care, I think, lawns are an important part of the landscape. No matter what you think of them, they can set off your flowers. They keep your feet from getting muddy when it rains.
Right.
And the type of effort you put into it influences the results you get. So if you want a low-maintenance lawn, one fertilization in fall can help reduce weeds by as much as 50%. And I think that research either came out of Ohio State or UW-Madison, one of the two. And so, just fertilizing. I always talk to friends who go, I've got all these weeds, and I don't want to use weed killers. And I'm like, well, do you fertilize? Well, no. Well, start there.
That's right. Well, kind of all biological entities, and it matters now how large, how small, all benefit from nutrition. And
you bet.
Fertilizer is the nutrition. Plants, of course, make their own food, but they have to have the building blocks. And a product by the name of Milorganite tends to give them all those building products.
You bet. And, it's one, I used Milorganite way before I had a formal relationship with them. It's been used by golf courses for decades. And as you mentioned, it's 90 years this year.
Yeah.
And so it's good for everything, but a lot of people know it when I travel. They go, oh, my grandfather, my father always used that on the lawn.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned, it's got the nitrogen, low nitrogen, slow release. So you encourage slow, steady growth, which is what we want. And now is the time the lawn's putting down new roots and spreading and getting denser. And so we want to feed it non-leaching phosphorus, so that's good for the environment. But the other thing they found in research out of Florida is when the micronutrients work on that Milorganite, it releases some of that phosphorus and potassium we have built up and tied up in our soil. I always joke I left Columbus with heavy clay soil, alkaline soil to go north for a shorter growing season in the same lousy soil. So not the brightest horticulturist in here in the room.
I was going to ask you about that, Melinda. When you consciously knew you were doing this, where was your mindset?
I think it was a summer job, and they kept me too broke I couldn't leave at Extension is what I tell everybody. I love Wisconsin, but Ohio, every time I go back to visit, I go, we can't grow that anymore. And, your summers are a little longer and your winters are a little milder. But, what can I say? I'm not the smartest move in my life.
Well, I don't know about that. But at the same time, you had to make a conscious decision to do this.
Oh, yes, exactly. We're going to go with that, Fred. It was a good plan.
Once again, our toll-free number is 1-866-PLANT-TALK with 2 T's or 1-866-752-6882. If you have a question this morning for Melinda Myers or Fred Hauer. Melinda, our special guest, well, of course, you see her on TV and you read her books from the bookstore, and now you hear her on the radio. And, of course, Melinda, we know you're online. Why don't you tell folks how they can get more information from you on their computer?
You bet. MelindaMyers.com is my website, and we've got all the Melinda's Garden Moments radio and TV tips, so audio and video tips housed there, and lots of frequently asked questions. And if you can't find it, you can post a question, but you have to be very patient with me because I'm outnumbered. I'm sure you experience the same thing, Fred. It's like there are more gardeners than us.
Well, and that's good.
It is good. It is good. You're absolutely right. And then Milorganite.com also has some videos on how to apply fertilizer, some projects I've done with them as well. And one thing I'm very excited about is, we're talking a lot about pollinator gardens and how to grow a garden and a landscape that's not only beautiful for you, but also good for all those pollinators that are so important to all of us.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wish I knew more than I do, and it would be a matter of an 8-hour day, 365 days a year to try to even begin to learn enough. But the more I understand about what I've been doing all these years and listen to the scientists and how they're getting to cell particles, cell walls, intercellular space, all of these things, including then this ridiculous soil that you move from and to, when it comes to what makes a plant tick, it is so very complex. All that I have been able to determine so far is that a plant does not have a brain, but it does have the sensitivities to respond to all that Mother Nature can dish out, just short of death, and most plants are pretty persistent, so you don't even have to worry much about that.
That's a really good point, and especially for any of the new gardeners out there that are very nervous. And I'm sure you talk to new gardeners that are worried about starting because I'm going to kill the plant. And I always say, just what you say, they're more resilient than you think. Don't give up too early.
Right.
I kind of feel like I'm stress testing plants. That's my excuse. Last year our winter started early, but then we had the break, and I was planting in December bulbs and a few trees and shrubs that I didn't get in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, and some looked a little questionable, and I just waited long enough, and they came back with a little bit of TLC. But as you mentioned, they really can tolerate a lot that nature and, unfortunately, we put on them.
In spite of us.
In spite of us, right, exactly.
Once again,
Don't give up and give it a try.
Our special guest on the program today is Melinda Myers. If you have a question for Fred or Melinda, give us a call at 1-866-PLANT-TALK with 2 T's. That's 1-866-752-6882. More coming up next on Plant Talk. Stick with us.
This summer at Franklin Park Conservatory and Botanical Gardens, the gardens are in full color. Welcome its tropical and native butterflies in flight in the indoor Pacific Island Water Garden. View the conservatory's bonsai collection and experience the exhibition Origami in the Garden. Find details at fpconservatory.org.
And welcome back to the program. Mark News here alongside Fred Howard, the Ohio nurseryman, and our special guest, Melinda Myers. Melinda, thanks for joining us this morning.
You bet. Always my pleasure.
And we're going to take a couple of calls right now from some of our listeners. And first we have Deanna on the line with us. Good morning, Deanna. What can we do for you?
We just cut down a big shade tree. We've had for many years, and it was dying. And I'd like to know what kind of shade tree that I can plant that will grow large and fast, and what time of year to plant it.
Melinda, what would you do up north? I know what I would do here.
Okay, well, one that's really a fast grower that we've had some good success with are the Freeman maples, which are a hybrid between the red and the silver maples.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the good red fall color of the red maple, but they're more tolerant of the high pH soils that we all share in common and can be a problem with the true red maple. And so that would be one of my suggestions is for a fast grower. How about you, Fred?
Well, right here in Central Ohio, I would say the same. Now, I would always say that there may be better choices under some circumstances than fast-growing maples. But,
true, good point.
But I also learned way early on when I was trying to sell some folks, probably my present age, a big oak tree, and he said, son, now, you have a different look at life than I do. Mine's about done. Yours is just getting going. I want something now. Well, I learned right then that there is a use for let's just say the maples, and certainly with now, 20-plus years of experience with the Freeman maples, they're just plain good trees for all practical purposes.
You bet. And one thing, if you have room, a solution to your concern, and I agree totally with you, Fred, is if you have room, plant a slower grower, longer lived plant.
Right.
for hopefully as you age and get older and can still enjoy it, and then something quick growing if you have the space, so you get quick results. And when that, the Freeman maple has been holding up well. We find here it does better with a spring planting than a fall planting.
That's interesting.
But we've done both because it's kind of when you have time and it's available.
Right.
But, that's kind of the best of both worlds if you have room. But not everyone has space to do both. But if you do, that's a good solution. Plant for the next generation and plant for right now.
Well, and for Deanna, I think definitely the Freeman maple